Hey everybody, it is so good to be with all of you as we step into this training video. My name is Renaud and I have the incredible privilege of serving alongside you in the Central Florida YMCA. I get to serve on the missions committee. That's my small part in this giant story, and it has been an absolute joy and privilege to be part of the unfolding story of the Y. Now, as we step into our time together, we should be reminded real quick of what binds us together in this particular story. And as all of you should know by now, we have a very particular mission that we are all focused on. And here's what the mission says. The purpose of this association is to improve the lives of all in Central Florida by connecting individuals, families, and communities with opportunities based on Christian values that strengthen spirit, mind, and body. Now, those are some really interesting words. And there's some words in there that we might be a little uncertain about. When we look at the part that we're supposed to strengthen, and we hear we're supposed to strengthen mind and body, that makes a lot of sense to us in our cultural context. We have the tools to be able to strengthen somebody's body. We have the knowledge and the trainers and the people to connect them to. And so that's a pretty easy one, though the journey might be fairly complex. We also kind of know how to strengthen somebody's mind by improving their access to information, by helping them see and understand things they may not have seen or understood. But when it comes to strengthening somebody's spirit, that's a lot less familiar in our cultural context. In fact, we're not really sure how to do that. And so what tends to happen is that we gravitate away from that, and we say we do it, but we're not really sure how, and we're not really sure why, and we're not really sure when. What I'd love to do in our time together is to be able to talk through how you and I can engage with the members of the Y and the community in a way that will strengthen their spirit so that they will be able to grow in spirit, mind, and body. Now, as we step into that, there's another piece to this equation, which is that we say we do this with Christian values. What does that really mean, that we do this with Christian values? Well, what that means is that we extract the inspiration we need to be able to engage with somebody's spirit from the principles and person that we encounter in the Bible. Now, we don't require any of you to believe the things of the Bible to be able to work at the YMCA. We don't need those beliefs to be present for you to be able to be a part of the volunteer base here. However, those principles and the person of the Bible are the foundation on which this organization has been built and exists. And so, in order to represent the organization in a way that makes sense, we do need all of us to be able to understand where our inspiration comes from and why we do the things that we do. So today, we will step into that, understanding why we do it, where we get our information from, how we do it, and how we do it together, regardless of where we land in our own personal belief system. I hope that when we're done with this, that the principles out of this video will help you and I engage better in serving the members in our community by strengthening their spirit. So, how do we begin to care for somebody's spirit? To be completely honest, the beginning point for that is incredibly simple. Here it is, ready? Just be actively kind toward people. You might go, hold on, it can't be that simple. And I would tell you it absolutely is. That is the beginning point of an active caring for somebody's spirit. Now we know in the business arena, in the nonprofit sector, in the ministry arena for that matter, that being kind toward people is really, really good for the people that are your customer base, whether they are the members of the YMCA or the community in general. When we're kind to people, it is uplifting, it builds them up, it causes them to feel better about themselves, and in general, it just improves their lives. And so active kindness, just being nice to people, is an incredibly good business strategy. It's an incredibly important part of caring for people's spirit. So, first and foremost, as a staff member or a volunteer of the YMCA, we would ask you to begin to think very actively about how you can be kind to the people around you. Now, at first, kindness is a random act of kindness. You just start being kind in the hallways, smiling, saying hi to people, being nice to people. But eventually, kindness in that random way leads to the opening of a door for relationship where we can engage more deeply in understanding the people we are around and caring more deeply for their spirit. Now, in the context of the YMCA, because we draw our inspiration from the Bible, kindness goes a level deeper. It's not just a good business strategy. It's not just a good way of retaining members or making members feel uplifted, caring for their spirit, but it is also a response to what we understand God has done for us. The Bible reveals that God is actively kind toward us. That's how he cares for our spirit. Just look at his creation and how he has displayed his wonder and beauty for us to enjoy. Just look at the way that he says in the Bible, I will never leave nor forsake you. I will always be with you. I am for you, not against you. I love you. These are the things that God has demonstrated to us without condition. And these are the kinds of things that inspire us to be able to step into a world of kindness to those who we encounter both inside the walls of the Y and outside the walls of the Y. Be actively kind. This is the starting point for caring for people's spirit. Engaging in active kindness toward the people around us is going to be a giant doorway into relationship. Here's why. Because when we are kind toward people and we demonstrate to them that we are for them, then it opens the opportunity for them to feel safe to come and engage with us. And that means you're going to end up in conversations with people where they begin to share their lives with you. When they do that, our tendency in our culture is to do a lot more talking than listening. Here's why. Because it's easier, it's more about us, so we're more comfortable with that, and we want to try to help them by fixing whatever it is they've just brought to our table. Though this can be helpful, it is not a great way for caring for somebody's spirit or strengthening somebody's spirit. What we find is that when we are able to engage in powerful, active listening, that has tremendous wonder in making people feel cared for, especially in their spirit. We see this beautifully demonstrated in a story that unfolds in the Old Testament of the Bible. There's this woman, her name is Hagar, and she finds herself in a desperate place as a single mom, feeling very lost and alone. She cries out to God, and God sends an angel to her with a message. And the angel says to her, Hagar, I want you to know God has heard your cry. He hears you. The word there used in the scripture is Shema. God is the God who hears you. After that encounter and Hagar getting some vision from God and some help from God, she gives God a name. And the name she gives God there is El Rahi, the God who perceives, or the God who sees. Isn't that a beautiful name? That in God hearing her cry, she felt that he had seen her heart. This is what active listening is all about. It's about us engaging with strategic questions and an active perceiving as people are speaking with us to try to see what it is they're trying to say. When we actively listen to someone, we cause them to feel seen and heard, and there is nothing better for the spirit than feeling seen or heard. In fact, you may be familiar with the movie Avatar. There is a scene in the movie where two people are talking to each other, and in this tribal setting, the woman says to the guy, I see you. And in typical form in our Western culture, he goes, okay, thinking she means she physically sees him. But then she pauses and says, no. I see you. What she was trying to say is, I perceive you, I know you, I feel you, I experience you. This is what occurs when we connect deeply as human beings because one of us is engaged in active listening. In your training journey, you are going to encounter as part of that training journey, if you haven't already, a class called Listen First. And I want to just encourage you, pay really, really close attention in that class. Take furious notes. Take the information from that class, go to your circle of influence, your friends, the people you hang out with, and practice some active listening. Because when you are able to actively listen to people and develop that skill, you will be amazed at how well you begin to become somebody who strengthens somebody's spirit. May you head out there, be actively kind, and then jump into active listening. Some of you may remember that a couple of years ago, Joan Osborne wrote a song called What If God Was One of Us? And the lyrics of that song absolutely fascinate me. They're really beautiful. Listen to this. If God had a name, what would it be? And would you call it to his face? And if you were faced with him in all his glory, what would you ask if you had just one question? And yeah, God is great. Yeah, God is good. And yeah. But what if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us. Just a stranger on the bus trying to make his way home. You know, when you first hear the lyrics to that song, if you have any sense about God, it kind of sounds a bit sacrilegious, doesn't it? How do you put God, divinity, in the same sentence as slob, like the rest of us? And so at first, you're not sure if those are good words at all. But the truth is that the Bible reveals to us that God, in fact, did crawl into a human body and come and join us on this planet. He became flesh and blood. He walked among us. He got on the bus with us. Now we know it was a donkey, not a bus, but he was among us. In fact, that's where we get the name Emmanuel from God. God with us, to say, I'm experiencing, I'm journeying, I'm walking with you. When Jesus was on this planet and people started following him, one of the most fascinating things we see about Jesus' life is that he wasn't just with us, but that he began to engage with us in an active wondering about things. What does that mean? He started asking really big questions. He started presenting really cool ideas that we were forced to wrestle with, so that it caused us to think bigger than we'd ever thought before, to see broader than we'd ever seen before, to experience things in ways we'd never experienced them before, because Jesus just posed great questions and he presented great truths. And when we engage with people in the care of their spirit or strengthening their spirit, one of the evolutions between just actively listening, which is really an opportunity to give people the chance to share themselves with us so that we're just trying to perceive them, there is also an active wondering where we are now presenting questions that aren't just to perceive the other person, but to lead to greater thinking. It's also a way that we share ourselves with them. We are now saying, I hear you, I see you, and I'm going to share my own experiences in some leading questions and some ideas that might cause us both to journey forward. What a great way to strengthen spirit. In the training that you receive with the Listen First, you will learn a lot there about leading questions or open-ended questions. And these are the kinds of things that, again, tool you up and tool me up to be able to actively wonder with people, to give them a sense that we journey together through life and share with one another in life. I'm with you, I'm for you, and I'm going to lead you as I learn. This is active wondering. In the beginning of this video, we shared with you that we draw our inspiration for how we engage with people both inside the walls of the Y and outside the walls of the Y from the principles and person revealed in the Bible. But the truth is, we wouldn't even know the person and principles revealed in the Bible unless God had shared himself with us, unless he actually told us who he was and gave us the wisdom of his knowledge and experience. See, at the end of the day, when we want to strengthen somebody's spirit, care for their soul, part of that is that we need to share ourselves with them, our experience, our discoveries, the things we have found. This is an important part of strengthening somebody's spirit. A lot of organizations don't really want you to do that at all because, rightly so, they're very nervous when we start sharing ourselves with each other because we all have varied perspectives, varied beliefs, and come from very different places. And so the fear is that if we start sharing with each other or we start sharing our own discoveries with others, it's going to become offensive and it's going to become a problem. At the YMCA, we actually want you to be able to care for people's spirit. And so we want to create a safe space for us to actively share with one another. How do we do that? See, the tricky part about sharing is that when we share our own experiences, it can often come across as though we are trying to convert or convince somebody so that they would be like us. But we understand at the Y that that's not what we're trying to do at all. We are simply giving ourselves and our experience and our knowledge for somebody's opportunity to grow or take what they can and want. So the way we design active sharing is that we start with asking permission. After you have been actively kind and engaged in active listening and have perceived and seen a person and have now wandered with them for a while, you have good, solid relationship. That gives you the space then in the active wondering to say, hey, I found some things related to the things we're talking about that might be helpful. Would you mind if I shared them with you? I have some experiences. I've discovered some things that might be helpful. Would you like me to share them with you? And then in the sharing, we're able to say things like, here's what I found, here's what I've experienced, what about you? And it gives us the space to be able to actively share ourselves with someone, our thoughts, experiences, discoveries, and opinions, without causing them to feel like we are trying to convert or convince them. This freedom that we have within the walls of the YMCA gives us the opportunity to really share ourselves with others and our experience with others. And this is what we want. We want the Y to be more than just a place you come and work out or you come and play soccer. We want it to be a place where you connect with people, where you're able to be safe with people, and where you're able to gain experience and knowledge from people, even though it will differ from your own, and where we are able to grow together as a community. So active sharing is an important part of the equation. After all of that, I am sure that you're a little overwhelmed, as I would be. We've got active sharing and active listening. We've got active wondering and active kindness, and we're not really sure exactly where they go, and will I remember all four, and which one comes first again, and how do they build on each other? And so how do we put all of this together in the real everyday world that we live in? Well, to simplify all that for you, I want to illustrate something. Now, I have 8 kids, so I'm quite used to playing with Play-Doh. Ta-da! Now you know why the Play-Doh has been on the table. I want to use this Play-Doh to illustrate for you how these 4 separate pieces come together in a relational dynamic that makes us the kind of people at the Y, as a staff and volunteers, that can strengthen spirit well. So let's take this piece right here. This piece of Play-Doh we will call active kindness. Now, active kindness is awesome by itself, but when you add to it active listening, because it opens the doorway to somebody sharing, and the more you listen to them, the more you perceive them, the more intentional your kindness can become, the two begin to blend together. So active kindness and active listening come together and begin to form a very beautiful, multicolored piece of Play-Doh. Now, while we have active kindness and active listening going on, the listening evolves into active wondering, right? But active wondering, hold that piece, active wondering is a part of sharing your life with someone. So while we are actively wondering with someone, we are also actively sharing our experience with them. Those two begin to blend because you can't really wonder with someone without also sharing a bit of your own experience. And so before you know it, you're in relationship with someone and you've wondered and shared with them, but you haven't stopped being kind, I hope, and you haven't stopped listening either because you are sharing mutual information with each other. So active kindness and active sharing comes together with active wondering and active listening, and you can't tell which is which, so they all begin to blend. Now, you and I both know what happens with Play-Doh when you start squishing colors together. My kids do it all the time, and then I'm frustrated because I can't separate the colors. And that's the point. See, you can't separate these 4 things into individual parts. They are one way of caring for people's spirit, for strengthening people's spirit. Because once you start turning it now, you tell me which one comes first. Is it active sharing or active listening? Or is it active kindness or active wondering? You see, relationship is a constant turning, evolving space in which we are kind and wondering and sharing and listening. And we become a people that care beautifully for people's souls, strengthen people's spirit in the relational connection that we have with them. This is how we are able to strengthen people's spirits. And it is in this space that we become the YMCA. I am so excited about all of us having the opportunity to engage in connective relationship with the members of the Y and those in our community. For some of you, your personality already is jumping up and down because you're so excited and you've just been given permission to go and engage with people. And for some of us, that's a little more daunting. It may be daunting for a number of reasons, whether it's resonating with the place that we draw our inspiration from because you have a different belief system, or whether it's because your personality doesn't love jumping into crazy conversations, or because you just feel like you're not quite sure how to navigate some of the deeper, more difficult things that might come up. And the truth is, no matter who you are, these conversations may lead to places where it's over our heads and we're not sure how exactly to help people through some more difficult things. When you get into those spaces, or you're more uncomfortable with jumping into deeper conversations, we have an incredible team of people here at the Y that are also part of the volunteer base, and they are called our chaplains. And they are at the family centers, and they are available to be able to take on some of the more difficult conversations when you encounter them. Because you have relationship with the people that you have engaged with, when you refer them to a chaplain, they're going to trust you. And we are making sure that the chaplains that we provide to the Y are trustworthy and well-trained so that they don't violate the trusts you've established. If you want to know more about the chaplaincy program, you can talk to your director at your family center, or your director will lead you to talk to the people that run that chaplaincy program so that you will know and understand how it works and how you can refer someone to it if and when necessary. Thanks again so much for listening to all of this, and we certainly hope it's been incredibly helpful in your ability to strengthen the spirit of those that you encounter in the Y.